So tomorrow we are going up to Camp Moshava early in the morning. So I can teach in the afternoon. You tell me 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, whatever is good for everybody.
3:30 would be okay, I think.
3:30, fine. We'll learn
What time is Shabbos? Hold on a second. What time
Shabbos
is Shabbos?
is like 5:30. Shabbos is like way after 5.
Yeah, 5:20 at least.
Right.
Ernie, I just
Yes.
want to tell you a word before we go. So you should know for Tzvika's Shir next week, I'm going to tell Tzvika, when you give Shlachmonis, Rabbi, okay, drive safe and you'll miss the tea time. Okay, it's okay.
Okay, so we're on Pei Gimel on the top. Rabbi Moisef is Af Rabbi Yosef Gli. That even Rabbi Yosef Glili held the same shita that the Tanya Rabbi Yosef Glili Omer Kola Inyan Kulo, that the Inyan over there by Chatasaron Medaber El Baparman Israfim and Suraman Israfim. When the pasuk says Kol Chatas Asher Yavo Midama El Ol Moed L'Chaper Bakodesh Lo Sochal Bo'esh Tisarei. That's not by regular Chatas. It's by the Parman Israfim, like Par Helen Dover Shel Tzibur, that a par was offered by the Bezdin if they made a mistake, or, for example, the par that was of Yom Kippur, that the din was lisrof psuleim ha-beis habira, that you had to be soirif them in the Beis Hamikdash, v'lite lo sasa l'chilosum, and there's a special love to eat of the meat of a par man nisrof. Amru lo chata shenichnas dam l'fnai v'lifnim inayim. Then how do you know the din of a regular chatas that went either into the Heichal or went into the Kodesh Kadoshim? What do you do with it? Amar lahen, that's from a different pasuk. Hein lo huva es dama la Kodesh pnima. Michlal the inofik ihi or inami ayel dama. If the dam of a regular chatas went inside the Heichal or went outside, then it's also treated b'sreifa. However, Rabbi Yochanan said damu basar chadam milsihi, that the dam of a korban and a basar of a korban is the same thing. And you could think that even Tumas dam is like psula guf. But bailim, when the owners become tabi, that's milsach risihi. And therefore, there are chachamim that are matri you to burn hekdesh right away. You don't have to do uber tzirasan. Uber tzirasan is done when you have a psul in the guf of the korban, whether it's basar, whether it's dam. But if the bailim become tamei and they can't eat it anymore, there's a special din that you can burn it right away. Okay. Mishnah. Ha'atzamois, the bones of a korban pesach, v'agidin, the tendons, v'anoiser, the leftover after the next morning. Yisrafu b'shish asar. You cannot burn it on the 15th, which is Yontiv. You burn it the first day Chol HaMoed on the 16th. Chal shisha asar liyos b'Shabbos. If that year, the 16th is Shabbos, Yisrafu b'shiva asar, you burn it on Sunday, which is the 17th. Because the burning of noiser or the psul ain't doichin losa Shabbos losa Yontiv. They're not doichin Shabbos for Yontiv. Amar Rav Mary Baravua Amar Rav Yitzchak. Atzmois kochim sheshim shenoiser. Bones that had marrow inside of it, and this bone was left over till the morning, and therefore it sort of protected the noiser. It has the same thing as noiser, just like noiser is metamis sayadayim. The bones are also metamis sayadayim. Hoil v'natzabosis l'davar aser, because it was like a base for the marrow inside of the bone. Now, name a Messiah. Let us say that the Mishnah we just learned supports the halacha of Rav Yitzchak. Our Mishnah said, "Hatzamas v'agidin v'noisar yisarfu l'shishasa." You burn them not on Yom Tiv, but you burn them on the 16th. Hani hatzamas echida. What bones are we talking about? Are we talking about bones that have no marrow? So lama b'sreifa. Well, the bones are not edible. Why would you have to burn the bones? Nishdina, just throw them away. There's marrow. So marrow is eaten like other korbanos, like other meat of the korban, and therefore was left over. It's noiser. And but if you're telling me that when a bone protects the inside marrow, it's considered something important. So that's why the bone as well. If the shimush noiser is milsi, that's why the bone is being burned. But if you're telling me just the fact that the bone protected the noiser is not milsa, so again, lamalul is reifa. So it must be our Mishnah is a raya to those that say that shimush of noiser is like noiser itself. Because if it was lav milsi, lamalul reifa, and this berinu, you could break the bone, take the marrow out, and then of course burn the marrow, nisrafei, finish dinner lididu, and then throw the bone away. Elalav shmamino, shimush noiser milsi. So maybe our Mishnah proves Rav Yitzchak's case. Amri lo, there's no proof. Just because a bone protects the noiser, that doesn't make the bone important. But rather, ksovar, it says, etzem lo sijru vo. That's by the Korban Pesach. Don't break its bone. Bo, the kosher. A kosher Pesach, you can't break its bone. And vafilu b'posel. That means don't think that the lav of etzem lo sijru vo only applies to a kosher Pesach. No, it applies even to a posel dik Pesach. So even, let's say, the bone was left over, it's noiser, and it's not kosher anymore to eat, there's still an isser of shviras etzem. So therefore, they can't. Remember, the eitzah was, oh, let's break the bone and take the marrow out. You can't do that because the isser of breaking the bone of the Korban Pesach exists even in a state of psul. So there's no raya because there's no other. You have to burn it because you can't break it and take the marrow out and burn the marrow separately because of this special din of shviras etzem that exists even if it's puzzle. Freak the Gemara. Afilu b'posel sagadaitich. What? Are you telling me that the lav of etzem lo sijruvo exists even by a posel dik Korban Pesach? Vatnan. I'll show you it's not so. Aval hamoiser b'tohor. Somebody leaves over noiser of a Korban Pesach tohor or vashoiver b'tomei. Somebody breaks the bone of a Korban Pesach that's tummy, ain't a sovik zarboim, doesn't get malchus. So you see that the lav of breaking a bone doesn't apply by shviras etzem, otherwise you get malchus. So lo kasha depends. Kanshai solo shasha kosher. If a Korban Pesach, that when we say that even a posel dik Korban Pesach, there's a lav of lishbor etzem. That's when the Korban Pesach had at least a moment where it was a completely kosher Pesach, like a regular case of noiser, where the Korban Pesach was perfectly fine, it just wasn't eaten, and then after it goes a certain time, it becomes noiser. So that is going to be also to break the bone in that case. But kan shaloi salosh asa kosher. But the halacha that you quoted to me that there is no lav of shiras etzem by apostle, that's a Korban Pesach that was never had a shasa kosher. It was always prohibited. Now, uman tana, then who is the tana? The shani lay who makes a distinction between shai salosh asa kosher, lo salosh asa kosher. Rabbi Yaakov. It's Rabbi Yaakov. Where do we see this? The time. It says, etzem lo sijruvo. Don't break the bone of the Korban Pesach. Bo, the kosher v'lo b'posel. The lav only exists by kosher Korban Pesach. A posel dika, you could break the bone. Rabbi Yaakov Oimer, no. It depends. If the Korban Pesach had a period of time where it was kosher, and then became nifsal, for example, through noiser, so then there would still be a lav of shiras etzem, because it was at one point it was a kosher Pesach. If the Korban Pesach was never kosher, loy salosh asa kosher, then ein bo mishum shiras etzem. There would be no lav of shiras etzem. Comes a third Tana, Reb Shimon Oimer, echad zeh v'echad zeh, ein bo mishum shiras etzem. There is no din if it, whether it had a shasa kosher, whether it didn't have a shasa kosher, the fact that now it's not kosher, there's no lav of shiras etzem. Okay. So the Gemara found the Tana, Rabbi Yaakov, who held like the opinion that we for the previous kasha. Although I'll ask you another kasha, Meisvei. Kol atmas hakadoshim ein te'unin sreifa. Bones of other korbanos do not require sreifa if they become possible. Chutz ma'atmas hapesach u'ne'at hakolo. Except for the bones of a korban pesach, because of a potential danger. What's the danger? Hani atzoma sechida. What bones are we talking about? Are we talking about a bone that doesn't have marrow? So lamalu sreifa. Well, why would we need sreifa? Has to be pshita dispumoy. It's got marrow. Now the isak shimush noiser milsihi. Now if a covering bone of marrow, and the marrow is now noiser, the covering bone is considered like the noiser, then atzma is kochim amay ain't tunin sreifa. Why would regular bones of a chatis or a shlomim or an ashram, etc., if they became nifsal, why would they not require sreifa? If shimush noiser, just like you have to burn noiser, you have to burn the bones that are protecting the noiser. I don't know, by Yitzchak Chochmah Eskinon, Gon Shematzon Chalutzin. You found the bones and they were broken, and the marrow was taken out of them. So then, atzma is kochim de ein bo mishum shvirsa etzem. There is no lav of shvirsa etzem by other korbanos. Kamei denevu noiser chatzinu. You could argue, you know what? The marrow was removed prior to the becoming noiser. Fine. Now you found the bones. It's after the morning, after the next morning. But maybe the noiser was removed before and eaten. And therefore, there's no raya that these bones were ever a shimush l'noiser, lo shimush noiser. Therefore, lo boy sreifa. However, atzmas pesach. But you can't say the same thing by bones of a korban pesach, because the yesh b'hem mishum shvirsa etzem. There is a lav of shvirsa etzem. But lebasar didn't have l'noiser hu dechatzinu. Because it's clear then that these bones were broken only after they became noiser. And therefore, the bones were shimush noiser. And you were allowed to break the bone because, like we learned, according to those mandomrim, that there's no lav of shirasa etzem. And since these bones served as a covering of the noiser, boy sreifa, according to that opinion. And that's the teretz of Rav Nachman. Rav Vidam are different teretz. Och my skin on kigon matson siburin. You found them piled, and you found the top ones that were broken in two, and the moach and the marrow removed. So umehen chalutzin. So atzma is kodshim in a case if all these bones were bones of a regular hegdish, where there's no lav, the ein b'hem mishum shvirsa etzem, l'kulu avacholitz l'vachla. It's clear that they had broken open the bones and ate the marrow, v'lo boy sreifa, and therefore all the marrow was taken out and he ate them, and there's no noiser, and you have to burn it. However, atzma is pesach, the yesh b'hem mishum shvirsa etzem. There's a lav of shvirsa etzem. Maybe these he opened up, but some were not opened up, and there's marrow in there. And since The bone is serving as a covering of the noiser boy sreifa. That's another teretz between the difference between kochim and a korban pesach. Alright, Amarav. Kolagidin boser. If you find an animal with tendon, the tendon is considered like meat. And therefore, if there's enough tendon, people can subscribe to eat it for the korban pesach, and you're yotzi nechavoso. Chutz begidei tzavar. The tendons of the neck, they're very hard. It's considered eitz ba'alma. It's not edible. It's not considered basar, and you can't subscribe to it for the korban pesach. It's not basar. So Tnan, our Mishnah, Tzomis vagin vanoiser yisrafu b'shishasar. So we said if they became noiser, you burn them on the 16th. Now, what kind of gidin are we talking about? Hani gid nechidon, ilemi gidei basar. If they're the gidin that fall under the category of meat, so why weren't they eaten? Nechlenu. Why were they left as noiser? The tutor, and then if they were left over, then I know noiser. Then why say in the Mishnah atzoma is gidin noiser? I mean, if it's gidin that are meat that got left over, it's like noiser as well. So what does it mean gidin? It must be talking about the tendons of the neck that are not considered basar. Because if they were meat, so perhaps that's why the Mishnah had to tell me, you know what? It requires sreifa if you tell me that it's meat. Then you don't have to burn it at all. We're back to the same question. Lama lo sreifa. Amrav Chisda. Oh, this is the sciatic nerve. It's called the Gid Anosha. There, I'll leave it Rabbi Yehuda. There's a machlokas, the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda. The Chachamim hold that both Gid Anosha, you have two sciatic nerves, because you got sciatic nerve in the right leg, sciatic nerve in the left leg. According to Rabbi Yehuda, only one sciatic nerve is osir. I'll leave Rabbi Yehuda tell you, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Eina Noegel Ba'achas. The hadas machras shall yamin, and an inquiring mind leans towards the fact that we must be talking about the right leg, which seems to imply that really Rabbi Yehuda is mesupik. So we don't have a full proof which one it is. So you have to remove the sciatic nerves from both. And really only one is usher. The other one we really would be permitted to eat. It's just because it's a suffix what it is, we don't eat it. And therefore we burn both of them. And that's what the Mishnah came to teach me. That when it says Gidin, it means burn the Gid Anosha, burn both of them. Then based on the way we just learned, let's resolve a debate we had, because we questioned the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. They never knew whether Rabbi Yehuda was certain that they were dealing with the right sciatic nerve, or rather he was not certain about it. Well, based on the way we just learned, we should be able to resolve the debate, because the emif should pshit delay, because we understand if it's clear to him that it was the right sciatic nerve, hahi de terin nechle, and really the left sciatic nerve you could eat it, udisur nishtain, and the one that's also you get rid of, then why would you need sreifa in the first place? Eat the one, get rid of the other, and there's no noiser. And based on that, you'd be resolved that Rabbi Yehuda clearly knows what he was certain about his halacha. So Amra Vika Barchinan, there's something else going on here. Kigon Shehukru Vasof Nisarvu. At what point we identified, oh, this is the right one, and this is the left one. Oh, and this is kosher, and this we can eat, and this we can't eat. And then they got mixed up. Oh, now you have a suffix. Now you have a clear suffix, and here you can't eat either. But since it was already identified that one of them is permitted, you can't eat both of them, and therefore you got to burn it, because now it's moister. Now, Rav Ashi Amar Lo Nitzracha El L'Shamno the Gid HaNosha. Another teretz. The fat on top of the Gid HaNosha is what we're talking about. The Tanya. Shamno Mutter. The fat lying on top of the Gid HaNosha is permitted. Minat Torah. However, Yisrael Kedoshim He. V'nohagim Bo Yisrael. Yisrael Jews are careful, and they practiced a chumrah not to eat the shamna. But technically, it's mutter minat Torah, so it's got a din basar. However, people, it's going to be a korban Pesach that's left over because the Israelim are not going to eat it, even if it is Pesach. And therefore, it's got a din of noise, and you have to burn it. That's how Rav Ashi learns. Ravina Omer Bachitzon, another shita regarding Gid HaNosha. Ravina Omer Shmuel, Ravina Omer Shmuel. Shnei Gidin. On each side, there are two Gidin. An inner sciatic nerve, pnimi asomach, right next to the bone. That one is l'chula alma osir minat Torah, and you get v'chayav nalav malchus if you eat it. Then the sciatic nerve that divides, and it's closer to the muscle. Chitzos on labosar osir. It's only midrabana. There's no malchus. So minat Torah, it's permitted. However, there's an issur to eat it, so it ends up as noiser, and then you have to burn it because it's noiser in that setting. Then we said we don't burn it on the 15th in the morning, which is the first day of Yom Tov Pesach. You wait until the first day of Chol HaMoed, the 16th. Ask the Gemara a fundamental question: am I? Nesei asay, let the asay of, there's a mitzvah asay to burn noiser. And then you have a los asay of don't do work on Yom Tov. In general, an asay is doich alois asay, like we have by shotness, tzitzis. You're allowed to put on tzitzis even though you made shotness, because the asay is doich the lois asay. So why don't we say that the burning of the noiser should override the los asay of Yom Tov? Amar Chizkiah, V'chein Tonavei Chizkiah, Amar Kra, Lo Sosiri Menu Ad Boker, the noiser Menu Ad Boker Bo'ech Tisrofu. What's this extra boker here? Shein Tam Lo Rad Boker, Matam Lo Rad Boker, Litin Lo Boker Sheni L'Srifasu. To teach you burn it not on the first morning, but on the second morning. So it's Exeris HaKosuv. Really, Me'ikar Adin, you'd be allowed to burn it, because Naseh will be Doich Alois Naseh. Abai Omar Kra Oilas Shabbat B'Shabbato. You're allowed to sacrifice the Korban Olah of that day of Shabbos on Shabbos. However, Lo Oilas Chol B'Shabbos, you can't shecht a Korban Olah of a week on Shabbos. V'lo Alas Chol B'Yontif, and an Oilas Chol can also be done B'Yontif either. And therefore, we don't burn for Yontif something that's not from the mitzvah of the day. Rava Amar Krahu Levado Yaseh Lachem. It says Mikra Kodesh Lachem Kom Lachalo Yaseh Ach Asher Yachel Lechol Nefesh Hu Levado Yaseh Lachem. Oichel Nefesh I permitted you. Who? Below Machshira. I can't, for example, make a new pot on Yontif. Right, a hechsher for the food. I can cook food. I can't do other machshire for the oichel. Elevadoi, v'lo mila shelo bizmana. I cannot do mila. It's not on the 8th day. because kava chomer. Because otherwise, I would have thought that I should do Mila, Shabbos, and Yom Tov. So I had to be told, no, if it's not Bismano, it doesn't. Rav Ashi Omar, different teretz, why the Sreifas Noiser does not override the lav of Yom Tov. Because you know what? It's not just a lav. It's an asay and a lav, Yom Tov. Because it's a Shabbason, Shabbat Shabbaton, the Yom Tov asehu. And an asay of burning Noiser is not doicha lois asay ve'asay. If you have a combination of a lav and an asay is not doicha that. Okay. So we'll stop here. And tomorrow we'll learn